one day you wake up and the bombs started dropping on that area. There's a somewhat famous quote by Barack Obama in which he says something along the lines of Bitcoin is actually kind of like a Swiss bank in your pocket. I'm not saying this is a bad way to put it, but it's not completely correct, and it doesn't, even if it tells some of the story, it doesn't tell the entire story. So the way I would frame it instead is by saying that Bitcoin is actually an offshore account in your pocket, which is open for all, essentially, and it's virtually free to set up. Especially if you're from a Western country, which is essentially more or less safe from wars. I don't know what could happen, but you could say it has been safe for almost a century from an actual war that is destructive. You probably feel like you're safe, right? Like you don't have the risk of war knocking on your door every single day. So you might feel like investing in stuff like a business or in real estate or something along these lines is a smart investment, which is the truth, honestly, because if you live in a safe place and you want to invest in a business in your own jurisdiction, then yeah, that's great. There's no risk of war, and one day you're not gonna wake up and that business is completely demolished because of the war. You know, if it's like a physical business in your neighborhood that sells, I don't know, pastries, it's not gonna be hit by war. And there's more or less political stability for it to be operating as it should be operating, with consistent revenue and even growing revenue as people become more and more financially stable and financially well off. And as you grow your business, it will generate more and more revenue. So it really makes sense for you to set up a business or invest in a business. Same can be said about a real estate. You can just buy a few apartments and rent them to people. As your city or your town grows and more people are interested in living there, you will get even more people to rent, and the value essentially of your apartment grows, or your real estate or whatever it is, whatever kind of real estate you have, it will grow in value and all of that. But what if you live in a place where there is war? So what if one day you wake up and this place, this neighborhood where you have all of your investments in physical stuff such as a business or a real estate, and one day you wake up and the bombs started dropping on that area. Obviously you're gonna think that the business is gonna shut down, at least for a while, so that's revenue that you lost as a shareholder. And if you had some people renting, they might want to flee, and so you're going to lose that revenue of rent revenue, and essentially the value of the company or the real estate that you owned is just going to drop, right? Because no one wants to invest there, no one wants to live there, no one is actually there to put money in the economy to let the economy grow and for your investment to grow and for you to generate more revenue. So this is the state you're in, your neighborhood is in times of war. So as a Lebanese person, growing up, I used to ask my dad, like, why doesn't he start a business in his own line of work? And his response was always something like, the situation is not very favorable, we can't really do that right now, it doesn't seem safe to do that. Even though like Lebanon has not been through a full-on war since 2006, which was just like a 1 month long war. Even before that, the war of the Civil War ended like in the 90s. Obviously, my dad had a lot of time of peace to start a company, start a business, and work on his own as independently, to invest money in a business. But now, as I grew up and as I'm a bit more mature about these things, I realize it's kind of like a PTSD response. I'm not saying that my dad has PTSD, obviously, but I'm saying that there's this collective worry, to not say trauma, about what happened during the war, and the possibility of that happening again. So even though the war ended, as we all know, that is always in the back of the mind of the people who witnessed the war. And because you cannot really trust the political climate of the Middle East and of the country specifically, people essentially do not believe that there will be long-term stability. And that does not really allow them to start businesses. Not to say that people in Lebanon never started any business ever. There's a lot of small businesses, there's a lot of people doing their thing, but there's always this reluctancy on starting a business, on doing your own thing. And you can see that this has materialized in such a huge public sector because people don't want to take risk in the country. They don't want to pay from their own pocket. Investing directly in the country and having their whole entire livelihood dependent on how the country will function and how it will be, that proved to be a bad investment. That proved to be not a very good way to spend your money. So for me, as a 21st century guy in his 20s living in the digital age, and for someone who lives in Lebanon, and I cannot say that I've witnessed a lot of the wars that happened, but I'm now 28 years old and I've witnessed two wars, you can say, the one in 2006 and the one in right now happening now. I may have also developed the same kind of mentality. I cannot for the life of me invest money in this country, whether it is buying real estate, whether it is starting my own business, investing in something like that. I cannot seem to do that. I also had even planned to start my own Airbnb business here in the mountains, but now that I'm seeing the war and you can see that flights coming into the country are being cancelled, and you never know when even the airport might be bombed and you cannot actually use the airport anymore, it doesn't seem very wise to spend money on setting up an Airbnb business even. So a regular business is hard. It's not something that you can count on. Buying real estate for the same reasons, it's not something good. And also starting your own Airbnb business, touristic business in a touristic so-called country seems to be a risky investment as well. So for me, I have one choice. I feel like it's the best choice, and that is to keep my money in Bitcoin until things are better. What's great about Bitcoin is that it's not really connected to the war that is happening here by no degree. And so I could say that, as I said in the beginning of the video, by saying that Bitcoin is actually an offshore account in your pocket, Bitcoin is actually my offshore account, which is free for me to use. Okay, even as a Lebanese person, I don't have access to a lot of offshore accounts because these accounts are not open to all the countries of the world. So Bitcoin is actually accessible for me. It's also essentially free to use. Where I am right now is considered a safe place to be in Lebanon, so I don't think we're gonna get bombed where I am specifically. But as a Bitcoin owner who's Lebanese and living in Lebanon, I own my net worth in Bitcoin. So in case I feel danger and I need to leave this place, I can so easily take myself, take my 24 words, put them in my head, get on the next plane that takes me to a country that lets me in, and go live there with all of my net worth to do whatever I want with it. Just live there until everything is calmed down. Even if you're someone who has visas and has like a residency or a second citizenship, and you're a Bitcoiner living in Lebanon, that's even better. You can just take yourself, go live in that country legally as much as you want, for as much as you like, and you're not really, your financial well-being is not really tied to a country that is going through war. It really boils down to this. This is one of the things that if you've come from a dangerous jurisdiction that is risky, this is where Bitcoin actually plays its role. You can just take your Bitcoin and just go live somewhere else. Even if you earn in Bitcoin, that's even better. So there's multiple layers. First of all, if you own Bitcoin, that's great. You can take all your net worth that is not tied to your home country and just go live somewhere else until everything has calmed down. If you have a second citizenship, which is why a lot of Bitcoiners are into so-called Plan B passports and stuff like that, you can also take that, take your Bitcoin, live somewhere else. If you earn Bitcoin and have a citizenship and own Bitcoin, you're essentially an individual, sovereign individual, right? This is what we like to talk about in this channel. So you have all the pillars that you need to continue your life from wherever. Take your laptop, work from whenever, earn Bitcoin, your savings in Bitcoin are intact, and you can essentially legally go live wherever you want, or whatever your passport allows you to live. This is why in times of war, it's very important to have Bitcoin. Obviously you should have Bitcoin and you should have all these measures set up before the war actually starts, so you can have all these options. You don't want to fumble your investments, like liquidate them. Let's say you own a land somewhere and the war starts and all the value of the land drops. You're not really going to be able to sell that land to buy Bitcoin to move to a different country. You should have all this set up before push comes to shove. So the way that I would put it is that Bitcoin allows you to have options in the midst of war. That's really what it all boils down to. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.